The night on Mars was silent. Only the soft hum of the oxygen generator broke the stillness inside Ethan Cole's small metal home. He was a human engineer, one of the few who still lived alone in the old mining zone near the Red Dunes. The rest of the settlers had moved closer to the main colony, but Ethan liked the quiet. He liked the peace. He was fixing a broken power converter when he heard it, a deep, heavy thud outside his airlock door. At first he thought it was just wind throwing rocks again, but then came another sound. Softer this time. A voice, "Help, please." Ethan froze. No one came this far out after sunset, not humans, not even supply drones. He slowly walked to the door and looked through the camera monitor. The image was dark and dusty, but there was movement, a tall shape, almost human, lying on the sand. He opened the airlock and stepped out. The cold Martian wind cut against his face, carrying red dust that glittered under the twin moons. That was when he saw her. A woman, or something like one, was kneeling in the sand. Her armor was cracked and burning faintly with blue light. Silver skin shimmered under the dust and her hair looked like strands of dark metal. Her eyes glowed faintly gold, half closed in pain. Before Ethan could speak, she collapsed forward straight into his arms. Her skin was warm, too warm, and the faint scent of ozone surrounded her. She tried to lift her head but could barely whisper, "Hide me. They're coming." "Who's coming?" Ethan asked quickly, looking at the sky. But she didn't answer. She had already fallen unconscious. He carried her inside, laying her gently on the couch. Up close, she looked both beautiful and terrifying. Her body was covered in alien armor, cracked open in several places. Underneath, he could see glowing veins of blue energy pulsing faintly, like she wasn't just alive. She was powered by something more than blood. Ethan took off his gloves and touched her neck. She was breathing, but faintly. He ran to his tool bench and grabbed the medkit, standard issue for colonists, and injected a stabilizer shot. Her body jerked slightly and her breathing steadied. Then from far outside, a sound filled the air, a roar of engines. Ethan rushed to the window. A massive ship was cutting through the sky, black, angular, and silent, except for the deep hum of its thrusters. Searchlights swept across the desert. The sand glowed white wherever they passed. "Who the hell are you?" he whispered, turning back to the woman. For a moment she stirred, opening her eyes halfway. They burned brighter now, golden like molten light. Her voice was soft but carried authority, the kind of voice used to commanding soldiers. "If they find me," she said weakly, "they will kill you too." Ethan's heart raced. He didn't know who they were, but the look in her eyes told him it was no small threat. He ran to the control panel and shut off all external lights, then switched the oxygen exchanger to silent mode. The house went dark. Only the dim red emergency glow remained. Outside, the ship descended lower. He could feel its vibration in the floor. A spotlight passed just meters above his roof, scanning the sand for any heat signatures. Ethan ducked low beside the alien woman, holding his breath. The noise of engines thundered above them. For several seconds, everything shook. Then slowly, the sound began to fade. The ship moved on, disappearing toward the northern ridge. He exhaled slowly, heart pounding. When he turned back, the woman was awake again, barely, watching him with strange, curious eyes. "You didn't turn me in," she said softly. Ethan frowned. "You fell out of the sky into my front yard. I couldn't just let you die." Her lips curved slightly, almost a smile. Humans, still strange. She closed her eyes again, exhausted. The glowing veins on her neck flickered softly, then stabilized. She was asleep now, or whatever her kind called it. Ethan sat beside her, staring at her armor. It had symbols he didn't recognize, sharp, elegant markings etched into the metal like war medals or royal crests. He remembered hearing stories from the colony broadcasts about an alien commander from the Zyran Empire, the most feared warrior in the galaxy. A woman named Kelara Ven, could this be her? He stood up and walked to the window again. The sky was quiet now, but he could still see distant lights moving, ships searching, scanning. If she really was who he thought she was, then he wasn't just in danger. He was hiding the galaxy's most wanted warrior. Ethan rubbed his face and whispered to himself, "Great, Cole. You just saved an alien warlord. What could go wrong?" He looked back at her one last time before turning off the lights completely. She looked peaceful now, her hair shimmering softly in the dark. As he closed his eyes that night, Ethan didn't realize that his quiet life on Mars had ended forever, because the woman sleeping on his couch was not here by accident. She had come for him, and before the next sunrise he would learn why. The next morning on Mars came quietly. Soft sunlight glowed through the thin red dust that floated in the air. Ethan Cole hadn't slept much. He sat in his chair watching the strange alien woman resting on his couch. Her breathing was steady now. Her skin, which had glowed faintly through the night, looked calmer, more human in color. But her face, her sharp features, silver hair, long lashes, didn't belong to any species he knew. He brewed himself a cup of recycled coffee and stared. "What am I supposed to do with you?" he muttered. Just then she moved. Her golden eyes opened, alert, calculating yet strangely calm. "Where am I?" she asked softly. "You're in my home, Outpost 17, Red Dunes, Mars." He kept his tone firm, cautious. "You were half dead last night. I patched you up." The woman sat up slowly, pain flickering across her face. "You risked much, human." "I guess I did," Ethan said. "You said people were after you. Who are you really?" She looked at him for a long time before answering. Then, in a quiet, proud voice, she said, "My name is Kalara Ven. I was commander of the Zyran Empire's 7th Legion." Ethan almost dropped his mug. Everyone in the colonies had heard that name. Kalara Ven, the Scarlet Fang, a warrior so powerful that entire planets surrendered when she arrived. "You're her?" he said slowly. Kalara's expression darkened. "I was," she replied. "Until they branded me a traitor." The words hung in the air like a blade. Ethan blinked. "A traitor? To the Zyran Empire?" She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she looked around his small home. The tools, the dust-covered books, the half-finished inventions. Her gaze lingered on a small photo frame. Ethan standing with his crew back on Earth, smiling proudly. "Your kind still smiles," she said quietly. "Strange," Ethan crossed his arms. "You didn't answer my question." Kalara sighed, a sound that carried both exhaustion and pain. "I disobeyed an order," she said at last. "They told me to destroy a human transport, unarmed, filled with engineers and medics. I refused. The High Council said I had broken the law of purity." Her golden eyes hardened. "So they sent hunters. My own soldiers." Ethan's stomach tightened. He tried to imagine it, being hunted by your own people for showing mercy. "Why come here?" "To Mars, to me?" he asked. Kalara hesitated. Then she looked straight into his eyes. "Because this is the last human outpost they would search first." "And because—" She stopped herself, then looked away. "Because I trust your kind more than my own." Ethan felt something shift inside him. Sympathy, maybe, or admiration. She wasn't what the broadcasts described. She wasn't a monster or a conqueror. She was tired, lonely, lost. He went to his storage cabinet and pulled out a ration pack. "You need food," he said, handing it to her. "It's not alien cuisine, but it'll keep you alive." Kalara took it slowly, her fingers brushing his. The touch sent a faint electric tingle through his hand, like static energy. She noticed him flinch and gave a small smile. "My body hums with plasma energy. I forget it feels strange to others." Ethan chuckled nervously. Strange is kind of an understatement. She tore the pack open and ate slowly. For a moment there was silence, just the quiet sound of her chewing and the wind outside. Then she asked, "Why do you live alone, human?" Ethan looked toward the window. "Because I'm better with machines than people," he said simply. "After the colony war, I stayed to fix what others left broken. Guess I got used to it." Kalara studied him with curious eyes. "You fear being hurt again?" she said softly. He turned back sharply. "That's none of your business." But she smiled knowingly. "Pain leaves marks that glow, same as mine." He wanted to argue, but before he could speak, the ground trembled. Both of them turned toward the window. Outside, a trail of dust rose on the horizon, a patrol drone flying low and scanning the dunes. "Damn it," Ethan hissed. "They're still searching for you." Kalara stood instantly, energy rippling under her skin. "Then we must leave now." "Leave? Where? There's nowhere to go," Ethan shouted. Kalara's gaze went cold and sharp, and the warrior side returning. "If they find me here, they will destroy everything. They do not care for human lives." Ethan grabbed his pack and tools. Then we move. Follow me, she nodded once. Despite her wounds, she moved with stunning grace. Every step was silent, precise. Her armor flickered faintly, reshaping itself to a compact form. They exited through the back hatch and slipped behind the dune ridge. The red sand crunched softly under their boots. Above, the drone hummed, scanning the ground with bright blue light. Ethan whispered, "Stay low." Kalara crouched beside him, her golden eyes fixed on the sky. The wind caught her silver hair, making it glow under the thin sunlight. The drone passed overhead. For a tense moment, Ethan thought it spotted them, but it flew past, moving toward the east ridge. He let out a breath of relief. That was close. Kalara didn't relax. "They will send more. They never stop." Ethan looked at her, truly looked this time. Beneath the alien armor and glowing veins, there was someone who had lost everything. Her home, her people, her honor. He realized she wasn't just a fugitive. She was running from a war she no longer believed in. He tightened his grip on the pack. "All right," he said finally. "I'll help you." Kalara turned toward him, surprised. "You will?" "I can't let someone die because they tried to do the right thing," Ethan said simply. For a long moment, they stared at each other, human and alien from two different worlds, bound by a choice neither could take back. Then Kalara gave a faint smile, one that looked almost human. "Then you have just declared war on the Zyran Empire, Ethan Cole." He smiled back weakly. "Wouldn't be my first bad decision." They turned toward the distant canyons, heading for the crystal caves where no scanners could see. As the two figures disappeared into the red haze, the drone above shifted course, silently relaying their position to something far more dangerous. The chase had begun. The red sun of Mars hung low, turning the sky into a sea of burning dust. Ethan Cole drove the rover hard across the dunes, its old engines growling like angry beasts. Beside him sat Kalara, the alien warrior woman, gripping the side rail as the rover bounced through the rough terrain. Her silver hair fluttered behind her helmet, and her golden eyes scanned the horizon. "They're following us," she said flatly. Ethan looked in the rear monitor. 3 black dots appeared in the sky, growing larger. "How many ships?" "Too many." The hum of Zyran scout crafts echoed across the wind. They were sleek, triangular machines that glided low, their plasma engines cutting through the thin air. Bright blue trails marked their path, and they were closing fast. Ethan cursed. "We won't outrun them in this old junk." Kalara's expression didn't change. "Then we fight." Ethan stared at her. "Fight? In the middle of a desert? With what?" She reached to her belt and pulled out a small metal orb. With a quick twist, it unfolded into a glowing rifle, humming with energy. Ethan blinked. "Okay, that's new. Zyran plasma weapon," she said. "It will hold them off for a while." The wind began to howl louder. A massive dust storm was rising behind them, red and thick. The air started to flicker with static. "Storm's coming," Ethan said, squinting at the horizon. "If it hits before they do, we might get cover." Kalara looked up, then nodded. "Drive into it. The storm will blind their sensors." Ethan tightened his grip on the wheel. That storm could also rip this rover apart. She looked at him, eyes glowing faintly. "Then drive faster." He gritted his teeth and pushed the throttle to maximum. The rover roared forward, kicking up clouds of dust. Behind them, the alien ships fired. Bright plasma bolts cut through the air, slamming into the sand around them. One explosion hit close enough to flip the rover sideways. Ethan fought the steering controls, swearing under his breath. Kalara stood up on the moving vehicle, balanced like a dancer, and fired her rifle. Blue light streaked across the sky, hitting one of the chasing crafts. The ship spun out and crashed into the dunes, erupting in a wave of flame and sand. Ethan glanced up, eyes wide. "You got one." Kalara didn't smile. 2 more. The next ship fired back, its plasma beam grazing the rover's side. Sparks flew, metal screamed, and the vehicle lurched violently. Ethan barely managed to keep control. The storm hit them like a wall. Dust swallowed everything. The world turned red and roaring. Ethan could barely see 5 meters ahead. Static electricity filled the air, making every surface buzz. "Visibility 0. He shouted. Kalara held onto the roof rail, her eyes glowing brighter than ever. "Good. They can't track us now." The rover shook violently as the storm's wind howled around them. Ethan's pulse raced. Every sound, every vibration could be another hit. Then a plasma beam tore through the storm, hitting just behind them. The blast sent a shockwave that threw the rover off balance. Ethan slammed on the controls. The vehicle spun, sliding down a steep dune before crashing into a shallow valley. The impact knocked the wind out of him. He gasped, blinking through the dust. Kylara was already up, unharmed, scanning the sky. "They're close," she said, voice cold. "We make our stand here." Ethan staggered out of the rover. "Make our what now?" She didn't reply. She pressed her palm to the ground, and a small device projected a shimmering energy shield around them. A plasma beam struck it seconds later. Exploding harmlessly against the invisible wall, Ethan stared, speechless. "Okay, that's actually impressive." Kylara crouched beside him, recharging her rifle. "When they land, aim for the engines. Weakest point." Ethan pulled out his old pulse pistol, the kind used by miners for cutting rock. "This thing can barely kill a bug, but sure, I'll try." Moments later, the storm cleared just enough for them to see the dark shapes descending. The remaining 2 scout ships landed nearby, kicking up red dust. Their hatches opened, and Zyran soldiers stepped out, tall, armored, and glowing with blue light. Kylara's eyes went cold. "They were my soldiers once," the first alien shouted in a harsh, mechanical voice. "Kylara Ven, you are charged with treason against the Zyran Empire. Surrender your life or we will take it." Kylara stepped forward, unafraid. "You already took my life," she said quietly. Then she fired. The air exploded in flashes of blue and red light. Plasma bolts flew in every direction. Ethan ducked behind a rock, firing wildly to support her. Kylara moved like lightning, rolling, leaping, striking with perfect precision. She was breathtaking, deadly, graceful, unstoppable. Ethan saw one soldier charging toward her from behind. He didn't think. He ran forward, grabbed a wrench from the rover and smashed it against the soldier's armor joint. Sparks burst out. The alien roared in pain and fell. Kylara turned, surprised. "You fight?" "Better than dying," Ethan shouted, ducking another plasma shot. Together they took down the last soldier. The silence that followed felt heavier than the storm itself. The air smelled like burning metal and ozone. Ethan fell to his knees, breathing hard. "Please tell me that's all of them." Kylara didn't answer. She was staring at the horizon where faint light still glowed in the distance, larger ships approaching fast. "They won't stop," she said. "Not until I am dead, or back in chains." Ethan looked up at her, at the glowing veins running through her skin, the fierce fire in her eyes. "Then we'll keep running," he said. "There has to be somewhere they can't find you." Kylara looked down at him for a long moment, her expression softening. "You would risk your life for me, human?" Ethan shrugged weakly. "I already did. Might as well see how this ends." For the first time she smiled, a real gentle smile. "You are strange, Ethan Cole. And you're full of surprises, Kylara Ven." She helped him up. Together they climbed back into the half-damaged rover. The storm was fading now, leaving behind calm red silence. As the engine coughed to life, Ethan asked, "Where do we go now?" Kylara looked toward the mountains far ahead. The crystal caves. The old energy mines. "They can't scan us there," he nodded. "Then that's where we're going." The rover drove off into the fading dust, 2 small figures against the endless Martian desert. Behind them, the wrecked alien ships burned quietly, and far above, in orbit, a massive Zyran cruiser turned its gaze toward Mars, locking onto a new target. The hunt had only begun. The storm finally passed. The desert had gone quiet again. Only the hum of the rover's damaged engine echoed through the empty red valley. Ethan drove slowly, eyes burning from dust, his hands trembling slightly from exhaustion. Beside him sat Kylara, silent and alert, scanning the horizon with her golden eyes. Her once polished armor was cracked and burned. The bright Zyran insignia had half melted away. They reached the mouth of a canyon just as darkness fell. The air was cooler here, thin and dry. Strange crystals jutted out from the rock walls, glowing with faint blue light like frozen lightning. "This way," Kylara said quietly, stepping out. Her movements were graceful again, though Ethan could tell she was still wounded. They entered the cave. The walls shimmered with veins of glowing stone, old energy mines from the first human expeditions. The light was soft, beautiful, painting Kylara's face in shades of silver and blue. Ethan dropped his gear and sighed. "Finally, somewhere they can't find us," Kylara nodded. "The Zyran sensors cannot read through this mineral. We are safe, for now." She sat down on a smooth rock and began removing the broken plates of her armor. Underneath was a tight combat suit that shimmered like liquid metal. Ethan tried not to stare, but he couldn't help noticing the faint scars running across her back, deep healed marks that looked like burns or whip lines. He hesitated. "Who did that to you?" She glanced over her shoulder. "My own kind. Discipline is harsh in the Zyran military." There was no anger in her tone, only emptiness. Ethan crouched beside her, pulling out a first aid kit. "Here, let me help." "You patched me up back there. It's only fair." Kelara watched him quietly but didn't stop him. As he cleaned the wounds, she winced once, then whispered, "You touch gently, unusual for a species known for war." He gave a half smile. "We fight because we're scared. We heal because we remember what it's like to hurt." Kelara looked at him for a long time. Something in her eyes softened. Something human. After a few minutes, Ethan sat back. "All right, that should help." She nodded once. "Thank you." Silence filled the cave again, broken only by the low hum of the glowing crystals. The air felt heavy, like the world itself was holding its breath. Ethan leaned back against a rock. "So, tell me the truth, Kelara. What really happened? Why did the most feared warrior in the galaxy fall out of the sky into my yard?" Kelara's gaze drifted to the crystal light. For a moment, she didn't answer. Then, in a quiet, tired voice, she said, "Because I couldn't obey anymore." Ethan frowned. "Obey what?" Kelara's jaw tightened. "The order to kill innocents. My empire believes strength comes from fear. They say mercy is weakness. But I saw your people, humans, fighting for each other, dying to protect even the smallest life. I couldn't understand why compassion was called weakness." She turned toward him, eyes glowing softly. "When I refused to execute your colonists, the High Council named me a traitor. They sent my own soldiers to hunt me. I escaped their warship and crash-landed near your outpost." Ethan listened quietly, heart heavy. "You risked everything. For strangers." Kelara's voice lowered. "I saw what my kind had become, and hollow, proud, cruel. I wanted to believe there was another way." He smiled faintly. "You sound almost human." She tilted her head. "Perhaps that is what frightens them most." For a moment they simply sat there, two souls from different worlds, bound by quiet understanding. Then Kelara spoke again, her tone softer. "Do you regret helping me, Ethan Cole?" He thought about it, about the chase, the danger, the ship still searching for them. Then he looked at her, at the scars and fire in her eyes, and said, "Not for a second." Her lips curved into a faint smile. "You're a fool." "Yeah," he said, chuckling, "but a loyal one." She looked down, almost shy for the first time. "In my world, loyalty is not given freely. It is earned through blood." Ethan met her gaze. "Then maybe I'm earning it the human way, with bad decisions and good intentions." A soft laugh escaped her, low and melodic. "You speak strange truths." They fell silent again, but it wasn't awkward. It was peaceful. Outside, faint winds echoed through the canyon like whispers. Inside, the crystals flickered gently, reflecting in their eyes. Kelara's energy rifle rested beside her, glowing faintly. She stared at it for a while. "Do you ever wish you could just stop fighting?" she asked. Ethan looked at his hands. "Every day, but life doesn't stop asking for it." Her golden eyes softened. "Perhaps peace is not found in the absence of war, but in choosing kindness despite it." He nodded slowly. "That sounds like something worth fighting for." For a long time they said nothing more. Just two people breathing the same quiet air, alien and human, warrior and engineer, realizing they weren't enemies anymore. Then Kelara whispered, almost to herself, "You remind me of someone I once knew, a soldier from the early human wars. He was captured by the Empire centuries ago." Ethan frowned. "Humans fought the Zyrans before?" She nodded. "Long ago. He refused to kneel, even as they tortured him. He told my ancestors something they never forgot." "What did he say?" Ethan asked. Kelara's gaze turned distant, her voice almost a whisper. "He said, mercy is power too." Ethan felt chills down his spine. She continued, "That man's words became a myth among the lower ranks. A forbidden story about a human who changed hearts with compassion instead of weapons. I used to think it was foolish." She looked at him. "Now I understand." Their eyes met, and for a heartbeat the whole cave seemed to glow brighter. Ethan looked away first, clearing his throat. You should rest. We'll move again at sunrise. Kaylara nodded but didn't close her eyes. She kept watching him, her expression unreadable. Sleep well, Ethan Cole. Tomorrow will test us both. He lay down beside the firelight, staring at the ceiling. The soft hum of the crystals echoed like a heartbeat. As his eyes grew heavy, he whispered, "Good night, Kaylara." For a long moment, she didn't respond. Then in a gentle voice, she said, "Good night, my human." Outside, far above the Martian sky, the Xeran cruiser began its descent, a dark shadow against the stars. The peace in the cave would not last long. The first light of Mars crept through the cave mouth, painting the crystal walls in red and gold. Ethan Cole woke to a low vibration rumbling through the ground. It wasn't the wind, it was something heavier. Engines. Kaylara was already on her feet, her armor sealed and glowing faintly. She stood near the entrance, her golden eyes fixed on the horizon beyond the rocks. "They found us," she said quietly. Ethan rubbed his face, heart racing. "Already? We buried the rover's beacon." "They didn't need it," she replied. "They followed my energy signature. Siren hunters can trace even the memory of a warrior." Outside, the faint hum became thunder. 3 dropships cut through the thin Martian sky, their black hulls shining against the rising sun. Dust clouds rolled beneath them as they descended like predators circling prey. Ethan stood beside her. "We can't fight all of them." Kaylara looked at him, calm, proud, and strangely peaceful. "I can." She walked toward her weapons, lifting her plasma rifle and twin energy blades from the ground. The crystals around her glowed brighter, reacting to her presence. Ethan grabbed her arm. "Kaylara, if you fight them, you'll die." She turned to him slowly, her expression soft. "If I don't, they'll destroy this whole canyon. They'll burn every trace of life here, including you." Ethan clenched his jaw. "Then I fight too." Her eyes widened. "You are human, fragile, slow. This is not your war." "Maybe not," Ethan said, loading the old pulse pistol. "But you crashed into my world, remember? That kind of makes it my problem." For the first time, she smiled, sad and proud at once. "Then we die together," Ethan smirked. "Let's make it hard for them." The first wave came fast. Siren soldiers poured out of the dropships like dark metal ghosts, their glowing visors reflecting the red dawn. Plasma fire streaked through the air, lighting up the canyon walls. Ethan ducked behind a crystal outcrop, returning fire. His pistol wasn't strong, but it distracted them. Kaylara moved like a storm, her blades cutting through the dust, her body glowing with blue energy as she struck. Each movement was perfect, fierce, and beautiful. The ground shook as explosions tore through the sand. Ethan shouted, "Left flank!" Kaylara spun, firing her rifle and dropping 3 soldiers before they could reach him. She was unstoppable, until a bolt hit her from behind. The impact threw her forward, smoke rising from her shoulder. She fell hard, armor cracked. "Kaylara!" Ethan ran to her, dragging her behind cover. "Stay down." She coughed, pain flashing across her face. "You fight like a fool." "Yeah, but I'm a persistent fool." He grinned shakily. Despite the chaos, she gave him a faint smile. "You remind me of that human from the story I told you." Ethan's voice trembled. "Then let's make this story worth remembering." Another wave descended. Heavier units, their armor thicker, their weapons blazing. Ethan's pistol overheated, nearly burning his hand. "We're running out of time." Kaylara sat up, blood glowing faintly blue beneath her skin. "There is one way. The crystals here, they hold ancient energy. I can overload them." Ethan blinked. "Overload? As in, explode?" She nodded. "It will destroy everything within a kilometer. The soldiers, the ships, and us." He stared at her. "No, there's got to be another way." "There isn't," she said softly. "They will call reinforcements. The entire colony will burn." Ethan's chest tightened. "You can't sacrifice yourself again. Not after what you did for us." Kaylara reached out, her fingers brushing his cheek. Her touch was warm, trembling. "I was born to destroy. Let me end that purpose, and for peace." Ethan grabbed her hand. "No, we'll find another way. We'll—" A blast interrupted him. One of the dropships landing right at the canyon's edge. The shockwave threw them both to the ground. Kaylara rose slowly, her eyes blazing. "Go, Ethan, hide deeper in the cave." He shook his head. "I'm not leaving you." She smiled sadly. "Then live for me." Before he could reply, she leapt forward to meet straight into the fire. The final battle began. Kaylara moved through the storm like a living weapon. Her energy blades glowed white-hot as she sliced through Xeran troops. Plasma bolts exploded around her, but she kept moving fearless. Ethan watched, helpless from the rocks. He saw her lift both hands and, glowing brighter than the crystals themselves, and press them against the cave walls. The ground began to vibrate. The crystals answered her call, their light spreading in pulsing waves. "Kaylara, what are you doing?" he shouted. Her voice echoed through the canyon. "Ending the war." The glow grew blinding. The Xyran soldiers stopped firing, shielding their visors as the light swallowed them. Ethan tried to run to her, but the force knocked him off his feet. The cave shuddered as energy burst upward, a massive beam shooting into the sky like a second sunrise. The explosion tore across the desert, a storm of light and wind. Then silence. When Ethan opened his eyes, the world was quiet again. The canyon was gone, replaced by a wide crater surrounded by melted glass. The Xyran ships were destroyed. The soldiers gone. The sky above shimmered faintly from the energy discharge. He crawled through the wreckage, coughing. "Kaylara, where are you?" There was no answer, only a faint humming sound. He followed it until he saw it, a single glowing crystal lying among the ashes. Inside it, faint golden light flickered like a heartbeat. Ethan picked it up carefully, holding it close. "Kaylara?" he whispered. The light pulsed once, softly, like it hurt him. He pressed the crystal to his chest and closed his eyes. "You did it. You saved us." Hours later, the human rescue teams arrived following the energy flare. They found Ethan standing alone at the crater's edge, clutching the crystal against his chest. When asked what happened, he only said, "A warrior made peace." They never found any trace of Kaylara's body, only that single crystal, which glowed faintly for days before finally fading. But every night after, Ethan swore he could hear her voice in the wind, calm, proud and gentle. "You taught me mercy, human. You changed my war into peace." And when the red sun rose again over Mars, it looked a little brighter, as if the sky itself remembered her. 2 weeks after the blast, the Martian winds had already buried most traces of the canyon. Only a shallow crater remained, silent beneath the pale red sky. Ethan Cole stood there every morning, staring into the emptiness. The world had called him a hero. The colony broadcast showed his face, telling stories of how engineer Ethan Cole helped save Mars from alien attack. But he didn't feel like a hero. He just felt alone. In his hand he still carried the crystal, small, smooth, and faintly warm. It had once glowed brightly with Kaylara's golden energy, but now it pulsed only once in a while, like a fading heartbeat. He kept it beside his bed, near the broken piece of her armor he'd found in the sand. Some nights when he couldn't sleep, he swore he could hear her voice, and soft as wind, "You taught me peace." One evening, a soft beep echoed through his small cabin. It came from the crystal. Ethan sat up sharply. The light inside was alive again, brighter, swirling like liquid gold. He reached for it carefully. The crystal projected a faint beam of light that expanded into a hologram. Kaylara's image appeared, not as he remembered her in battle, but calm and serene, her silver hair flowing freely. "Ethan Cole," she said gently, "if you see this message, then I am gone. But know this, I did not come to your world by accident." Ethan's breath caught. Her hologram continued, voice calm but heavy with emotion. "I came to find you. Not the colony." "You," he froze. "Me, but why?" Kaylara looked away for a moment as if gathering courage. "Many generations ago, before my people became conquerors, our ancestors faced extinction. Our planet burned, our skies died. We would have vanished if not for a small human ship that arrived by chance." Ethan frowned. "A human ship?" She nodded. "Yes, it carried engineers and medics, explorers from ancient Earth. They shared food, water, and medicine. They saved our children, then left quietly without asking for anything." Her voice trembled slightly. "One of those humans stayed behind. He helped rebuild our cities, taught compassion to warriors who only knew pride. His name was Commander Elias Cole." Ethan's eyes widened. "Cole?" "Yes," she said softly. "He was your ancestor. We never forgot his kindness. His name became a forbidden symbol of mercy among my kind. The story I told you in the cave was about him." Ethan felt his chest tighten. "That soldier, that was my bloodline?" Kaylara smiled faintly. Yes, I searched the galaxy for proof that his spirit still lived. When I saw your name in the human colony records, I knew. I came to see if the legacy of mercy still survived. Her voice softened even more. And it did. You proved it when you saved me. Ethan stared at the hologram, speechless. His hands trembled slightly. Kaylara continued. I was supposed to bring you back as proof that humanity's kindness still existed, to show the Zirin High Council that peace was possible. But when I met you, I forgot the mission. I found something far greater. She paused, eyes glimmering. I found a reason to believe again. Ethan swallowed hard, whispering, Kaylara. Her hologram smiled, and warm, sad, beautiful. I wanted to tell you before the end, but time was cruel. I didn't die with regret, Ethan. I died free, because of you. The image flickered slightly, the light weakening. She lifted her hand in the hologram as if reaching toward him. If there's one truth I leave behind, it's this. Strength without compassion is emptiness. The heart of humanity is the light my world has forgotten. Her figure shimmered, the final message glowing brighter. Live, Ethan Cole, build the peace I could not. And remember, even across galaxies, mercy travels farther than war. The hologram dissolved into a gentle burst of light. The crystal dimmed, turning clear again. Silent. Still. Ethan sat frozen for a long time, staring at the empty space where she'd stood. Outside, the wind howled softly, carrying red dust against his window. He finally whispered, You came for me, not to fight, but to remind us who we are. Days later, Ethan took a small shuttle out to the ruins of the canyon. He stood at the center of the crater and dug a shallow pit in the sand. Inside, he placed the crystal and the piece of her armor. He built a simple marker from metal scraps, carving her name with his plasma torch, Kaylara Ven, warrior of peace. He stepped back, eyes wet, and saluted her the old Earth way, palm to heart. Head bowed, then he whispered, Rest easy, Commander. Your message will reach the stars. He walked away, leaving the marker to face the dawn. As the first sunlight hit it, the buried crystal glowed faintly once more, a soft golden heartbeat. From the orbiting Zirin cruiser far above, hidden eyes watched. A single message was sent across space in Kaylara's voice. The human lives, the legacy of Elias Cole endures, begin the Peace Council. And for the first time in centuries, the Zirin Empire paused its wars. That night, Ethan sat on his roof, looking up at the stars. He imagined Kaylara among them, silver hair flowing, eyes of gold watching him from some far place. He smiled faintly and whispered to the sky, You came for an unbelievable reason, Kaylara. But maybe the truth is simple. Love itself was the reason. The stars shimmered brighter for a moment as if answering him. And somewhere across the galaxy, an ancient war began to end. Because one human engineer chose to show kindness to a wounded stranger. Months passed after the battle. The Martian colony slowly returned to peace. The craters had cooled, the winds had calmed, and the stories of Ethan Cole and the alien warrior spread through every settlement like whispers of legend. But Ethan didn't care about fame. He still woke every day before dawn, climbed to the top of the observation tower and watched the sunrise alone. He would stare at the orange horizon where the desert met the sky, the place where Kaylara had vanished. Sometimes he swore he could still hear her voice in the wind. Sometimes he saw a flicker of gold light between the dunes. He had begun writing, not reports, not engineering logs, but letters. Letters to her. He kept them all in a small box near the window. Everyone began with the same words. Dear Kaylara, Mars is quieter now. He wrote about the repairs, about the new peace council forming between humans and Zirins, about how the soldiers who once came to kill were now working side by side to rebuild. He wrote about the first Zirin child born on human soil, and how her parents named her Kale. But most of all, he wrote about what he missed, her strange smile, her calm voice, her way of looking at him like he was more than just a man lost in dust. One evening, as the red sun sank low, the communication array on the tower came to life. It hadn't worked since the battle, but now lights flickered across the screen. Ethan frowned and tapped the console. That's impossible. A deep hum filled the room. Then a voice, soft, familiar, and impossible. Ethan Cole. His heart stopped. He turned toward the speaker. The voice was faint but clear. Kalara's voice. "Kalara?" he whispered. The static cleared, revealing a glowing hologram, not a memory this time, but a live transmission. Her image flickered, standing tall in silver and white armor, her golden eyes brighter than he remembered. "Hello, human," she said softly. Ethan stared in disbelief. "You're alive?" She smiled faintly. "Not in the way you think. What you see is my consciousness, the energy stored in the crystal you buried. My body is gone, but my mind lives within the Zyran network now." He couldn't speak. His throat tightened. You're part of their systems?" Kalara nodded. "When the explosion happened, the crystals absorbed my life energy. The Zyrans recovered fragments of it. Now I am both memory and voice, a bridge between two worlds." Ethan's eyes glistened. "You're still fighting for peace?" "Yes," she said softly. "And they're listening. The Council is ending the old wars. They have agreed to meet with the humans. You changed them, Ethan. More than you'll ever know." He laughed weakly. "No, you changed them." Kalara shook her head. "No, my human. You showed them what we forgot. That mercy is stronger than fear." The hologram flickered slightly. She looked around as if memorizing the room. "You still live in this quiet place," she said warmly. "Still alone." Ethan smiled sadly. "Not alone anymore. Not since you." For a moment neither spoke. The silence between them was gentle, heavy with everything they couldn't say. Then Kalara's image dimmed slightly. "My time is short. The signal won't hold long." Ethan stepped closer. "Don't go, please." Her golden eyes softened. "I must. My purpose is not to stay, Ethan. It's to guide. To make sure both our worlds never forget." He clenched his fists. "You deserve more than that. You deserve to live," she smiled faintly. "I did live. In your kindness, in your courage, in the way you looked at me not as an alien, but as someone worth saving." Her voice lowered, almost a whisper. "That is life enough." Ethan's eyes blurred with tears. "Kalara." She lifted her hand. The hologram shimmered, and for a moment her fingers seemed to brush against his cheek. Warm light touched his skin. "Goodbye, Ethan Cole," she whispered. "And thank you for reminding the galaxy what humanity means." The light flared, golden and pure, and then faded. The tower went dark again. The next morning, every human and Zyran colony across Mars received a single transmission, Kalara's voice, clear and strong. "This is Kalara Ven of the Zyran Empire. I speak not as a soldier, but as one who found peace among humans. They are not our enemies. They are our mirror, showing what we can become when we choose compassion over conquest. From this day forward, let the stars remember. Mercy is not weakness. It is the highest strength." The message echoed across the system, to the moons, to orbiting fleets, to distant colonies light years away. And for the first time in 1,000 years, Zyran ships lowered their weapons. Months later, a monument was built on Mars, a tall crystal spire engraved with two symbols, the Zyran wing crest and the Earth emblem side by side. At its base, an inscription read, "To Kalara Ven and Ethan Cole, who taught two galaxies that kindness can end wars." Ethan stood there quietly during the unveiling ceremony, his hand on the cool crystal surface. Around him were both humans and Zyrans, engineers, soldiers, children, all watching in silence. A small girl with silver skin and human brown eyes tugged on his sleeve. "Mr. Ethan," she asked, "is it true she saved everyone?" He smiled gently. "Yes, she did." The girl looked up at the sky. "Do you think she can see us?" Ethan followed her gaze, the red sky, the stars faintly visible even in daylight. "I think she's out there," he said softly, "watching all of us, making sure we don't forget." The child smiled and ran off. Ethan stood there alone, whispering to the wind, "You did it, Kalara. You gave peace to both our worlds." A faint golden shimmer crossed the monument, as if a hand of light touched it for just a second. Ethan smiled. He didn't need proof. He knew it was her. That night, when he looked up at the stars, a new light shone among them, brighter than any other. It wasn't a planet or a ship. It was something else. Something watching. Something gentle. And as he whispered goodnight to the sky, he remembered her final words echoing through the galaxy. Strength fades. Empires fall. But mercy travels beyond the stars. The end.